Okay, we here. That's what I wanted to talk about today. 10 steps ahead and the world is playing catch up to emotional intelligence. Yep, that's what it is. I had this planned out for today in my calendar on the topic. Let's give honor to Source, to the Creator, for making all this possible. Ancestors known and unknown. Yes. Just gonna make this a brief one. I love this backdrop, man. Oh my gosh, this masterpiece. This is one of my favorites. One of my favorite masterpieces that I've created. Because the portal, I'm telling you, had to see this in person. But I said, yeah, honor to ancestors known and unknown. Clap it up for yourself. This is one of my, I know I got shit coming up. Because, boy, you ever had just, certain things come up in your body? You be like, where the fuck did this come from? I think after my therapy session, I came back into the space and I just started feeling this pulsating feeling on my right side. You know, studies show that your right side is your father's side, ruled by, the patriarchal. And I'm like, it doesn't feel tight at all, but I'm grateful because I'm in a great high spirits because I'm realizing how much rest I'm getting, much more rest, and be very I can tell I'm glowing or something. A whole lot has changed, but just the fact of me resting more, which is very, 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 very important. I've been having a lot of things come up here lately. I don't know if, whomever's going through something, but I've been having a lot coming up, memory-wise, full moons, energy. And so forth. I've been really feeling like eating a lot. So, and it's probably natural because my body is purging a lot. The day before, I had a lot of stuff come up. I actually I had to ask myself, I told myself, I forgive myself for putting myself in unsafe environments, unsafe connections, and so forth. And the reason I talk about this root cause of this, it will allow you to be more present in yourself, in your awareness of how you even how you even progressing in life. And I was even more and when I did this, I would cry so much, bro. I was sitting by a tree and everything. I was like, bro, what the I apologized to myself for even placing my happiness in other people's hand. And I don't think we are aware how much so we have done that in even generations before, how they place their happiness in whether material things or in a relationship or in other aspects of things or whatever it is, and not knowing until if they do come to that self-awareness of realizing what they've done. And so for me, I purged a lot because it brought up so much from my childhood, because there was a place where I could not protect myself, or I realized that I did not have people who prioritized their safety, so therefore we were exposed to things that pretty much shook our foundations of what safety is, or basically create a internal space of instability. And the reason why I bring y'all into my perspective or my experiences is because what has led up to taking full accountability in how my life has unfolded, and how that through a lot of circumstances, I did not even know how to gain stability. I didn't even know what stability looked like for me, or felt like for me, or even in the internal aspect, knew what that even was in a way. And so I've been having these premonitions or self-realization of not really having no one to tell you the importance of putting the horse before the carriage. And those of you that probably do not relate or bring you into a world where, let's say you had a stable home, and that balance, whether you had someone who taught you financial literacy, there is an advantage that most people don't realize that they have throughout life, to where sometimes, like, a person from certain demographics can find themselves very envious or jealous for that person having more, whether it's materialistically or having stability, and they having a lack thereof. And it's not that they lack it, it's just they did not have the same resources that other people had, or did not have the opportunities as a mother and father that their mother and father had, or due to whether single parenthood, due to whatever. There's so many different perspectives, or so many different narratives that I can dive into. But basically, from my experience, I'm realizing how a lot of how what I've experienced has unfolded the way it did, and I was like, I will not feel shame and guilt around the fact of, in a way, it can seem like you can be behind, but nah, sometimes you don't get those like aha moments or self-realization where it's like, man, I really did not know at a time, like when I'm saying putting the horse before the carriage, what that was. And again, due to the experiences personally from childhood development, when you don't have people who are aware of the fact of how their actions will affect their children in the long run. And I'm grateful enough to have this awareness now, so that I can implement that, into son or daughter, and spread it to the youth of the importance of not necessarily just being around people who are more structured, but also realizing that you're also getting to know you more is a part of knowing that it's not going to be perfect. I used to just go with the flow of life, not worrying about the consequences of said actions and so forth. Then I realized, like, whoa, if you'd have told me that, depending on the culture we grew up in, just going out there, having fun, laying down with women, no responsibilities at a time, and a lot of things not really hitting you until after you be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even really know what it was to take care of myself. And this is what happens to a lot of people who are unaware of the loop that they're in, or it's almost like the spell that has been cast of not just irresponsibility, but being self-sufficient, or being self-reliant, or knowing thyself. And so what comes with that is generation of unhealed, unresolved traumas or things ancestrally, and it seemed like we were playing catch up. So my title, or what I was getting into, is having a lot to do with, it can be perceived as if we're playing catch up, but some people are. But there's so many different perspectives. But before I get there, I'm going to just dive in deep into where, like, again, I almost wanted to feel guilt and shame around how I would be attacked just simply because I did not have this. And let's say from a perspective of like how men are portrayed to the world, for one, the stigma around emotional intelligence, or the stigma around not honoring emotions. And then, so therefore, you're talking about modern day women, or majority of women who have been tricked into believing that men, from childhood, growing from childhood to adulthood, should not express themselves in an authentic and healthy way. And so then when you have foundations where, again, a lot of our mothers and grandmothers, there wasn't space held for them to be honest with themselves, so they had to unconsciously lie or do things to maneuver and navigate through life, to where now you have an oversensitized, if that's a word, or oversensitive nation or country or environment, because when our women haven't built authentic or integrative or just honest foundations within themselves, now this is where, again, I was telling my therapist, where I come in, or where you just as a man being honest, being confident, walking your path can be very intimidating to the foundations internally that people hold. That's why I say it's in you, not on you. So most of the time where you have a person's perspective or their belief systems on how what's been embedded deeply in them to believe that men are just this way. So now I've had to deal with the fact of through my evolution where I've seen more importance of, again, where we had generations who prioritized material security. So that groomed and embedded in our mothers, coming from these great grandmothers or grandmothers who, again, through wanting more safety than more emotional security, wanting to have more material safety, a house and so forth, but internally they were not stable. They were not happy in those homes. They were not safe. And so now we're unraveling. We're trying to resolve those very things that are happening, and this is why I can see in the climate today with a lot of elders where it's all written all over their face, where they carry a lot of shame and guilt behind the fact of why they stayed so long, or due to the kids, or due to certain things, which again had its purpose leading up to now. So now again, this has been carried on to modern day society, where again we're starting to see a shift in how we're prioritizing more emotional security and how that plays out in the physical sense. So that unfamiliarity is very intimidating to said grandma. You know, you're not going to talk to me like this no more, grandma. Or you're not going to, I demand respect. If you're not going to respect me, cut off. That goes for mama, that goes for anybody. And again, this is not something that has been normalized. And so as we see things collapse, again, I've dealt with personally, from dealing with, again, going back to the horse and the carriage, being from what I saw growing up visually and experience and how the body keeps a score, I did not have the importance of why the father and the mother is so significant, or just a consistency of seeing something stable and holistic. And then not only just that, but the two people recognizing their role in accountability. We do not come from generations that like to be held accountable for their actions. So therefore, when they don't want to do that, they're not going to want to face themselves. So again, that has caused them to be more attached to the material things to cover the hatred about themselves or what has been suppressed and repressed generationally. So again, you will see that from, again, my experience of growing up around women who did not prioritize their well-being, men that were in and out of the picture, or more so men that did not prioritize their well-being as well. Seeing men who would have multiple baby fathers, seeing women who would have multiple men who have multiple baby mothers, and then women that would have multiple baby fathers. Again, it's not about judging. It's about recognizing the root cause. What's going on with people for them to realize, like, what is this pattern? But we come from so much of a self-hatred society and culture where we've smothered our own emotions, or we've been around women who smother the sons, or we've been around men who have even have dealt with sexual traumas and who mask it through their careers and success or whatever. Same thing with women, do things similarly. But again, it's very intimidating, and it's very shocking when you have people come along and hold people accountable. They get very defensive. Some even get violent. Some even get, triggered. And this is solely because we have pushed so much down individually and generationally and societally and collectively and so forth. So again, due to what I experienced young, I took that on. A lot of us took that on, and not realizing there's consequences behind why mama never told me the fact of, you can allow girls to come in here but never bring a baby home. So again, that leads me to the idea that it's okay to go out there, expose myself to whomever and whatever, and not recognizing the spiritual repercussions, the physical repercussions. And by me, as I've spoken before, not really having anyone who knew how to manage emotions led me into relationships where I was in things where I did not know how to respond. I would react, or that will again lead to consequences of certain learned behavior patterns. So with that, that also goes into again the whole concept of putting the carriage before the horse. And again, when you have certain demographics and then certain places in the world where they're not taught the importance of emotional intelligence or financial literacy or a balance between logic and emotion, or the importance of being self-sufficient, you know, how that connects to being a part of emotionally stable. Because how are you going to stabilize or structure something or keep something built as a man or woman if you don't know how to respond in a healthy way to life and what life and how life, what's that saying goes, turning lemons into lemonade, or how, something like that. But again, that's what I've noticed now in this shift, to where again, just because certain demographics are of a certain people, a certain nationality and so forth, does not mean that there is an advantage. And then also people who are more in tune also right now have an advantage, where we're learning to realize how much we've had to master our responses and our emotions to be at a place of peace. And you're going to realize how much of an advantage in 10 steps that you are ahead while you see the world panic, while you see the world go into uproar, while you see the world like people who did obtain these things generationally, depending on their creeds or nationalities, but at the same time they wasn't ready for the consequences of their ancestors' actions, if that makes sense. So again, some people were unprepared for these very things, because I mentioned before how things that are unveiled right now, or the veil being thin, is the importance of how your spiritual currency is in you, not on you. So at a time where I felt like, oh my gosh, bro, I wish I had known this before. No, I'm grateful because I have this awareness now. So that's what also makes me 10 steps ahead of those who, and it's not so much that I'm more valuable, it's just 10 steps ahead, to where I can watch and observe while others have grace for myself, have compassion, while others just like almost lose it. Or I've shared this message to where they like, oh, I don't want to listen, but in reality I'm sitting back like, bro, chill, sit back and observe. You'll know which move to make. Because as a world, as people go and impulsively do things, that's one thing I realized the importance of. When you develop some type of emotional intelligence or become more in tune with yourself and start to recognize like, let me just be still for a moment. How many of us, let me be still where my father or my grandmother, like I know people right now are still going. I've gotten the most rest I've gotten within years. There were times where I used to walk and did not know what was going on. And I'm like, now I had to really sit and appreciate the fact that it may sound very delusional or even insane to people that I realize that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, even leading up through the transition of being, let's say, homeless, or even certain relationships where I'm able to recognize like, whoa, I see why that didn't pan out, or I see why this didn't happen the way it is. I was supposed to get that message. I was not supposed to stay longer. That person was there for just a season. They were here to show me this. What have they given me? And that's why I'm able to recognize now the bigger picture. What did my mother give me? For one, she was a vessel to bring forth life. Not only that, she was a vessel to also give me the inheritance of what she did not resolve emotionally. So now I'm here to resolve it, carrying both DNA or structures or the blueprint, the imprint of the fact of things ancestrally. So those things, again, due to what I experienced through the lens of her, and then now finding balance with that. So again, going back to the fact of how my dad wasn't there, that still created some type of instability playing out physically. My mom really reflected back to me more things that play out emotionally, internally. Now, her actions still show me things, but at the same through her masculinity. But all of what my dad did not give was showing me what he still gave me. And in essence, he still came together with my mom and gave me life. He still was there in certain ways. At the same moment, that's the beauty of learning how to balance and restructure and be reborn through your experiences, that even what you felt like you did not receive when you were younger is now what you have the opportunity to pour back into yourself. But sometimes we get so caught up to believe that what we did not receive is what we're supposed to long for and look for in others. And that's been the whole misconception. That's been the whole miscommunication of what generations before us, as they did not, like, again, what they did not give us was the importance of emotional well-being, or well-being mentally, spiritually, and so forth. I'm not saying some elders, certain spiritualists, or certain people were not there to show us certain things, but when we talk about in the totality of the generations of baby boomers and so forth, a lot of them did not prioritize that. So on a grander scale, on a bigger picture, ask yourself, some of you that are born after them, or this is your mothers or great grandmothers and so forth, is that what have they given me? They've given you an opportunity now to resolve the very things that they did. Because let's say again, if you had a mother that grew up in those times where she did not have the opportunity to face her emotions, you are given the opportunity now. That's the thing what makes us all miraculous. That's the thing what makes us all valuable in the spiritual sense. When I'm talking about spiritual wealth, this what makes us all valuable, that most people right now are oblivious of. That's what makes us elevate emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically. That's what all of this, the bigger picture, is about. Is when you hear the message on the grand awakening, or the rising of the divine feminine and masculinity and so forth. The divine feminine, in essence, is your essence, is the emotional space, is the mental and spiritual attributes of yourself. Because that's when you hear, those that talk about the mother, the matriarchal that has been laying dormant. Okay, when you look at how women have been treated, when you look at the matriarchal, when you look at how the distorted patriarchal, or the wounded masculinity that represented both men and women, how we, through our woundedness from what has been enabled, have been keeping that motherly energy dormant or pushed in a way. This is your emotional resonance. This is your emotional well-being. This is your mental, spiritual aspects of who you are. The darkest parts of you that play out in the light, the physical part. So now that can no longer be hidden, that's a part of you that can never have been tamed. See, that's the illusion that the patriarchal wanted to give through the false empowerment. So again, it may have been perceived that in the world that people who have gained so much materialism, like it may be perceived that they have the horse before the carriage, but in reality, it's so many different perspectives to where if you flip the narrative, those that are coming in tune more spiritually have always been the ones who have the horse before the carriage. But those who have prioritized more of the physical and the material shit, they have to upkeep this. They have to upkeep this persona for so long until again things start to play out spiritually, more internally. Because when we look at the rise of the feminine, the divine mother, the big mama energy, it's that of what has been laid in the dark of the deepest depths, the emotional parts of us that has always been there, the deepest parts of us that is rising, coming to the forefront. That cannot be tamed. It's just like, again, mama is the water aspect, the element of all things that holds memory. So right now in this space, this is why when you're talking about repressed emotions, repressed memories and so forth, subconscious, like the submarine, these are the very things that are purging. It's almost like we're rediscovering ourselves, like a submarine purging. Imagine like a submarine diving or diving deep to the depths of who you are, and then only to resurface because you're down there finding all these creatures, or down there finding all these things, these magical things about yourself. That's the analogy. Like, you have to imagine about who you are, what has been laying there. It's like finding treasure within yourself. That's what we're doing. And through that, you're realizing that you will uncover and reveal that was hidden can no longer be hidden anymore. About not only who you are as a person, but who you are to the depths of, things ancestrally and generationally. So nothing can be hidden, no matter how much scarcity or how much fear mongering is put out there. Once you claim your power, and I express this to women, this is that feminine is so powerful. That divine mother, that how some may say the dark feminine energy, is so like it cannot be tamed. You can't tame emotion. You can't control emotion. You have to allow emotions to flow and express itself. What society have we been in? We have been taught to try to control and be programmed to control everything. And once you see how behaviors are happening out here, the well-being of people, that's simply because it's when they say you're losing your mind or you're losing your cool, because you can't fucking control it. You can manage it, but you cannot control water. You cannot tame water. The other day I went driving and I saw this dam. They call it a dam, but the structure that like basically trying to contain water. And I'm sitting here like my mind goes to like, bro, look how all that water's coming out so fast. Man, look how that water. I'm like, bro, it's a great thing that they try to contain it, but I'm like, bro, you telling me when you think about erosions, this is what we learn in science or whatever, how powerful water is, it can break, it can just the force of how things can just be snap, something can happen and boom, the water just comes. And I was sitting here walking across, I was like, man, from this level of this, and then I noticed how some parts of certain places you're elevating and the water is here. So I'm like, at a point in time, this had to be either a waterfall or this had to be something. So what if this happens and then all this water flows down to what we call the inner city? And I'm like, is this shit designed this way? But anywho, that's the thing where I realized, like, whoa, it's how much so we're connected to like Earth, daughter Earth, or Gaia, some people like to say, and living organisms and so forth. Those who are in tune or that are aware of this, it's like just seeing the climate change, seeing so much change, seeing so much shift. I'm like, there has to be a connection beyond the fact of what has transpired over years and eons. And I'm telling myself like, whoa. And it's like my imagination or my connection to like nature is like that of like when I cry, I remind myself like, dang, it's like I visualize like a waterfall coming down my eyes. Like that's how vivid or just creative I am when I like see art or see creation. It's like I automatically can connect myself to it. Like the trees, it's like when I look at my hair like a bush, I look at stuff like that. You know, that's just like in an artist aspect or a visionary, like I look at stuff completely different. But then again, so yeah, it's like on a micro, macro level. But again, so from all of this, getting back to the subject at hand, wherever you are and whoever you are right now, and wherever you are in your journey, even if you're just coming into like more deeper awareness of yourself, you're already 10 steps ahead. If you right now are in a space where you're just sitting back and observing, just realize like that is very intimidating or unhinged to a lot of people. And I don't be giving no fucks, because I realize like one thing about this 9 year, just this energy right now is teaching me like so many endings and new beginnings, and how to go with the flow and not to try to focus on perfectionism. You know, with the nodes right now being in Pisces and Pisces and Virgo. Virgo is the energy of, again, for some, it's like the perfectionism or analytical or try to structure things. So how that can show up in certain generations it may look different from my outlook. So again, it can be perceived from a generation before me that I do not have the horse before the carriage because of their belief system. Now for me, I'm recognizing I do have the horse before the carriage, because as I come more in tune with myself, I'm realizing that I'm creating my reality, or I'm creating more of my life that is more structured and balanced emotionally, that plays out mentally, spiritually, and physically. Now that can be very, again, intimidating, or that can anger and piss off a lot of people who are not used to a belief system that, whether it's religious based with integrity or authenticity, that can be very triggering. Now that's the thing I want to share with y'all. Right now, you do have the horse before the carriage, because you're in a transition where a world that you once knew, that you thought you were supposed to be a part of, that you assumed that, well, I gotta have all this money, I gotta have this bank account, well, I gotta have this house by this age, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And in reality, that's really unrealistic, because we have to accept within ourselves that our outlook, our foundations that we were given young, it's not realistic for us, or it was a fantasy that we were given. We were given so many lies, and now we're angry and pissed. And not only that, we're trying to face unresolved shit and trying to resolve this with ourselves, and again, can become very. One thing about the Virgo energy being the South Node, it's like it can, and this is a collective, individually and collective, and it can play out differently for everyone. This is why it's so important to be grounded in your mind and in your spirit. It's because how are you going to ask of us, generations before us, to be something that you never were? You never cared to prioritize fun. You were never in tune with your inner child. You didn't care to prioritize the family structure more so, rather than the material security. You care more about that rather than the structure itself of how the family is going to progress or be prosperous long term. And for some of them, how that look is more monetary, money, or leaving behind something. And that's just surface shit. Now we're becoming more aware, like, okay, if I'm not just going, it ain't just about what's leaving behind, it's about facing what right now you left behind previous generations, because you left a carriage and then you want my horse to pull it, and this shit is too heavy. So now we left to unpack shit that don't even belong to us, so that we realize, like, hold on, is this even my courage from the beginning? Do I need to let this go? And then with that, I have to lighten my load so that as I pass the baton, or as the generations after us come, I have to realize, okay, what's more important? Materialism, material security, or my emotional well-being? It's not to say that having physical security or physical security isn't important, like material wise. It's just not supposed to look the same for me. It's not. Because one thing I had to recognize is that if I haven't been in safe environments, a country that prioritizes my safety, a country that prioritizes safety for women or children, I have to ask myself this: how in the fuck am I supposed to believe in a system or structure or people who do not have my best interests at heart, who are not even genuine, who do not even prioritize having a horse before the carriage? Because their carriages is full with things unresolved. So when you see things physically people obtain here, there is a spiritual connection to that, whatever comes with that. Whether business, corporation, housing, all of that. When you look at things in towns and certain places, there is an energy in those spaces. There is an energy in those communities. No matter how much people mass, there is energy that are in those places. There is an energy in that home. You thought you knew Tom, or you thought you knew Sarah, or you thought you knew Ray Ray and so forth, but you don't know the vices in that home. You don't know. I don't care how glitz and glam that shit look. You don't know what's in that home. You don't know the spiritual significance that it holds, the energy that is in that place. And again, being that we were exposed so young to certain things, now we must prioritize protecting that for the generation, not only for us, but for the generations after. That's why I always talk about coming home to self. As you see this image right here, that image of the little boy in that portal is coming home to himself, going inward to realize that I was taught to love everybody else. I was taught to look for it. Now I have to protect the love that from the very essence of who I am. I have to guard that. I have to guard that essence. I have to guard that which was, it felt at times, was stripped from me. I felt that there was no safety. There was no safety, or what I perceived as be happiness. We have grew up in a society or come from generations that their prioritizing their happiness was in their materialism. Let's fucking be real. And then our women believe that this is how. I saw a video the other day where this guy came up to this girl, and you literally have content around how a guy can get a woman with material things. Y'all don't even see how the stuff plays out, how you have material. You literally have been programmed to believe this is how you're supposed to get a woman. It's through your materialism. And even with that, your intentions are still behind what you're doing. Whether your ill intentions or your intentions to just get in her pants. And then it don't make it even better, because women actually open themselves or expose themselves up to the idea that this is how, because of a generation before y'all don't want to accept and believe it. This is why I always tell you, a lot of what I say is 10 steps ahead. I'm supposed to make you uncomfortable. I don't want to make you. No, this is the effects of authenticity. It's about being me is naturally going to have an effect on anything that's inauthentic. Naturally. The systems, the corporations, the people, and so forth, that's what the fucking vibration is. So I don't care to be accepted. I'm not supposed to look to be accepted, because it's unfamiliar to a man that don't gotta come up and he know it's in him, and that's what makes him magnetizing. His love, his authenticity, his truth to himself, his building a foundation upon something, as you see here in the picture, upon something solid. Because what he thought was love was a false perception of empowerment. to obtain things by not knowing who he was, because he grew up around people who did not care to know about who they were. And this is why you see the identity crisis. Like I said, it's about accountability right now, of holding us accountable for the fact of I'm going to shatter your illusion whether you accept it or not. The message is going to be broadcast to the world whether people like it or not. It's just a slow and steady process that I had to realize that's just what it is. I'm not supposed to care who's going to receive it or accept it or reject it. For some people, it could be their protection. I don't want to believe in what he said. That's fine. At the same moment, may you find something that brings you some type of structure, some type of clarity in whatever videos as I've shared, as I evolve, as I shift and come into this deeper awareness of myself, because that's where it starts with me first. It's not about convincing. It's about seeing exactly what the fuck has been going on in this world, in society, and so forth, coming from my experiences and making it relatable so it can be a bridge. Now, whether you choose to burn that bridge, it's on you. Because what comes around goes back around. So, whether you reject it now, you can come to accept it later. There's no difference in some things that I wanted to reject within myself and refuse to face, whether emotionally, through certain memories and so forth. I'm coming back around to realize, like, wow, this was trying to show me something. This was trying to reveal something to me to better myself. So this is for those who want to make better conscious decisions, make more sound decisions, have a better awareness on who they are. Because again, these systems have created modern day women and men to believe that they have to look so much for what is already in them. So again, that video I came across, that guy was like, the girl, how she responded was like, you can't buy my body, you don't have enough. And I'm saying, like, that's like modern day, almost like prostitution, or almost like selling yourself out just because of the car he has or his bank account. Like, what the fuck? Why does that even matter? When I be telling y'all women, your abundance and who you are, that's the misconception that you have been brought into believing that it's not in you, love. Once you start connecting to things ancestrally and generationally, you'll realize like how much power, how much courage, how much confidence your mother had to even make said decisions even when she didn't want to. The confidence you even have to rest more, to relax more, to even build a life around resting and relaxing should be a lot of women's priority. And I know it's scary because they're like, well, what are you going to wait till they start removing more of the resources that was built for them, for their generations? No matter the creed and color, they built that shit for them to be comfortable. And now the uncomfortability is we're the ones who are shaking shit up and shifting it because we don't want to live comfortably in their corporations and business and so forth. So guess who is a part of the greatest wealth transfer? Y'all. That's why it has to happen. I speak from an emotional, mental, and spiritual place because that's what the wealth is first. It's not just physical. Because once y'all sit down and really start to click, then that's when you realize the shift in power has already happened. Because you waiting on somebody else to hand you something when you are already giving you are the check, you are the abundance, you are the security first. You just don't know how to create it because you never went within. You were taught that your security is external. When your security here as a woman matriarchally starts here and as men. So again, we're reversing the curse. The curse has been lifted. The illusion of realizing that when are our mothers and women, sisters and so forth going to realize the importance of how you build something structurally starts within here. Where are the mothers holding other mothers accountable? Holding people accountable for the very things of, baby girl, it's okay to heal. If you're, because again, y'all have had things put in place that kept y'all divided, not only amongst each other, but within yourself. Concerned more about who has this more. That's the generation that y'all don't realize that y'all can't, that has made y'all believe that. The false perception of empowerment. Why, ask yourself, why do y'all not deserve to live amongst each other harmoniously, peacefully? I told someone the other day, I said, you know why they won't teach women to go out in together or to do certain things together? Because as much as they keep y'all divided, they know it starts with y'all to keep everyone divided. Because when mama not secure and safe, or she don't feel a sense of stability emotionally, then everything else around her, she'll start speaking like she won't speak life into the environment. Because if she won't speak life into herself, the environment will reflect that of the matriarchal that plays out through the patriarchal. Then that means that will reflect what plays out from the feminine of how she feels about herself into the world in the masculine aspect. And that's from levels of how she feels about herself, her environment, and then how she feels about those around her, her sons, and so forth. So that, again, if I could just get my mothers to realize that it always begins with you. Mother, son, father, daughter. And it's not just, it's an energy. It's not so much of just the fact of how, well, that's the concept of it beginning with the great mother, the divine mother. So with that, it's like, then you won't feel like there is an advantage. No. Because someone has something more materialistically, so what? That don't mean they have the spiritual guidance and spiritual protection. That's what most of you are missing out on. Is that once it click that it's in you, then you won't give so much of yourself to anybody. You will protect yourself from not everybody, but those who are discerning. See, that's what's returning. Is that a lot of you of the matriarchal have been so disconnected from your essence, which you've been disconnected from your discernment. Because being in the spiritual community or being a part of knowing your spiritual connection and what you're connected to and a part of how empowering that is, you will be discerning who you connect yourself to. And see, that's the thing where a lot of our mothers and grandmothers, they stretch themselves thin through generations. They stretch themselves so much to take care of everything. And once y'all start pulling that shit back, calling your energy back to you, staying away, resting, and you wondering why your body is more exhausted than it's ever been, it's because of ancestry and generationally or intergenerationally, you've been carrying so much of a load. Not only that wasn't yours, but also that things that have been passed down to you, to where this is divine intervention for you to recognize, do you want to leave this world like mama or grandma in such a distress, dis-ease, discomfort? Or you can start where they couldn't, however that looks. That's what this is about. And as you get more in tune, you'll be able to recognize your discernment to who is what, no matter their color or creed. What serves you, what no longer serves you. And then that's when you realize the horse has always been in front of the carriage. But they'll make it believe whomever the powers that used to be or ain't, make you believe through whomever else that you don't have an advantage or you're not 10 steps ahead. This is the last being made first. And this is the horse in front of the carriage. These are the false leaders that are falling away because guess what? Their time is up, and this is in the communities, false leadership in motherhood, brotherhood, sisterhood, patriarchally, all of it. When I say patriarchally, that means everything that represents the woundedness that has been playing out through the actions of others. When I say matriarchally, that's everybody collectively, from family, from sisterhood, brotherhood, community, and so forth. And that's what divine judgment is. So yeah, y'all take care of yourself. Peace and blessings. Shalom.